What is up today, guys? Today I'm going to be ranking all 29 of my Feazel University classes from the Computer Animation degree program. I'm going to be ranking them from the worst to the best on a scale of 0 to 40. 40, why 40? I have 4 categories and I gave each category for each class a number 0 to 10. And those categories are my experience, how did I feel in this class? Was this class good for me, Second category, did the information being taught stick with me? Do I remember what's in the class pretty much? Was it taught well? Third, was this class worth my time? Sure, I may have had a good experience and I might remember things, but overall, is it going to help me in the industry? That's another category. And the fourth one, would I retake this class? Alright, so we know our categories, we know our ranking value system. Let's get into this. Alrighty, so coming in at 29th with only a value of 3 out of 40 is month 14.2 for me, Fundamentals of Physical Science. My experience in this class, I gave it a 3. Everything else I gave a 0. It's just so not worth my time. I don't remember anything from this. It was just, look, I can't even tell you what the class was about unless I go back and watch my own experience video because it's so unmemorable and nothing stuck with me. You guys might have different opinions on all these classes. I'm just letting you know what's mine. Moving on to number 28, coming in with a value of 6 is month 22, Historical Archetypes and Mythology. Now my experience overall in this class, it was right in the middle of the road. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Did the information stick? I gave it a 1, and that's only because I briefly remember the Maui paper I wrote. Is it worth anything to me? Was it worth my time? Would I retake? I gave them both 0s. It's just, no, nothing. Moving up to 27, coming in with a value of 7, we have month 12 for me, Art History. It only got a 7. The experience overall was great because it was such a light class. Granted, there was no like creating art, it was only writing. I gave it a 7 for the experience because it was easy. It eased me back in after winter break, and it was a good month in terms of time. But everything else, did the information stick? No. Was it worth my time? I'm not gonna say it was. Would I take it again? Absolutely not. Nothing against the class, I just am not a big history buff. If you are, you might have this one higher up on your list. Moving on to 26, coming in with a value of 8, we have month 19, Compositing Fundamentals. This was such a massive disappointment. My experience, I gave a 3. Did the information stick with me? Not one bit. And that is because the way this class is structured, give you projects, but then they walk you through each step. The way it was presented in its almost podcasty style, I was like, nothing is sticking with me. This is, it's nothing. I'm getting nothing out of this. Was it worth my time? I gave it a 1, and that's because I did get introduced to Nuke, which is, valuable as it is an industry level program. And would I take it again? I gave it a 4 because I'm like, granted, I didn't have the best experience in the class, but I would be almost halfway willing to try it again, see if I could get anything out of it a second go round. But overall, it got an 8, and it was a disappointment for me. Coming in 25th place with a value of 9, we have the very first class, month 1, Creative Presentation. Now, as I do have good feelings toward this class, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's my first full staff class, Creative Presentation, what a great time. My experience, right in the middle of the road, I give it a 5. Did information stick? No, not really. I don't remember anything I learned in that class. So was it worth my time? I gave it a 4, and that's because I'm like, it did open me up to this online kind of schooling, and it helped me better integrate into this transition I was going through. So there's that, and would I take it again? No, I would not. My ranking of a 9 for it, I think it's just because it was the first class, and I do have those good feelings toward it. Alrighty, you'll see that the classes that rank both 24th and 23rd both have a value of 10. Now, this means they got the exact same score whether or not it was in the same or different categories, and how I determined their final position and rank is based on the projects that were done in those classes. So keep that in mind. Ranking in at 24th place with a value of 10 out of 40 is month 20, compositing and scene finishing. So my experience with compositing and scene finishing, I gave it a 4 out of 10, and that's just because, you know, way the class is set up. No one's gonna have a unique project at the end. It's all follow this podcast and we're all gonna end up with the same thing. Did the information stick? I gave it a 1 out of 10, and that's because we also use Synthesize in this class, which I was like, okay, the whole 3D tracking thing, that is cool. So I mean, like, that stuck with me a little bit, not enough where I can just do it. I still need my notes, but I mean, I at least remember the basics. Was it worth my time? I gave it a 1, and that's just because I can not say that it really was. Sure, it gave me more experience with Nuke, it gave me a little bit more experience with Synthesize. I mean, I didn't really get much out of it. And in terms of would I take it again, I give it a 4 just because, like with Compositing Fundamentals, would be about halfway willing to retry it and see if I can get anything else out of it. And coming in at 23rd, wrapping up the bottom half of our list with a score of 10 is TEM, month 2. Now, like I said, this one has a 10 as well as compositing and scene finishing, but because compositing and scene finishing, no one ends up with their own unique projects, TEM got the upper hand there and came in at 23rd. So with TEM, I gave my experience a 6, which may be a little high, but you know, I do feel like I had a good experience in the class. The information that stuck with me, I gave it a 1, and that's just because the only information that I did learn was like terminology. There was that one assignment, and it worked out well enough to where I can remember a little bit of it. But would I take it again? No, it was a very boring class. I would not take it again. Okay, so ranking in at 22 with a class value of 21 is month 4, Fundamentals of Art 1. Now this class I did have a good experience and I gave it a 7. The information, you know, learning the basics, the like principles of art and design and stuff like that, I gave it a 4. Some of it stuck, not a ton of it. Would I go through this class again? Gave it a 4. I mean, I would, but I wouldn't care to. So, I mean, it wouldn't be an inconvenience to brush up on my basics of art. Coming in at 21 with a class value of 21, Fundamentals of Art 2. It has the exact same class value as Fundamentals of Art 1, but I did prefer the projects that we made in Fundamentals of Art 2. So my experience again was a 7. The information retained, you know, I gave that a 4. Was it worth it to go through this class? Gave it a 5 because don't really feel like I learned much more than I did in Fundamentals of Art 1, but I would be more willing to go through this class again and take it again. So I give that a 5 just because it was more fun than Fundamentals of Art 1. They got the same score, but I did prefer this class. Ranked at 20 with a class value of 26, jumping up 5 whole points, is month 5 for me, Model Creation. Model Creation was a very enjoyable class for me. Information retained, I gave it a 6 because I learned an awful lot of new ways to model things that expanded upon it than what I learned in 3DF. Is it worth my time? Absolutely. I gave it a 7, and would I retake the class? Absolutely. About halfway, I gave it a 6. Alrighty, coming in at number 19 with a class value of 27, edging out Model Creation by 1, is Project and Portfolio 1. My experience, I gave it a 7, and that's because it was an enjoyable class to go through. They didn't exactly teach you anything, but I was able to pretty well remember what I did learn in my own studies and trying to like go through my notes again from past classes. So my knowledge increased in this class, and my confidence also increased in this class, because I just got more practice with modeling and stuff like that. Alrighty, coming in at number 18 with a class ranked of 27 is month 18.1 for me, Visual Development. Edged out Project and Portfolio 1, and that's because we got to better learn how to use Substance Painter. And until then, I had used Substance Painter, but I wasn't like confident. And then throughout this whole month, you friggin' use Substance Painter. So I was like feeling a lot better about how to use it and how to import stuff and how to light and render and all that good stuff. It was just an overall enjoyable class. Coming in at number 17 with a class rank of 28 is month 18.2, History of Visual Communications. I had a blast in this class. Gave it a 10 on my experience. Gave it a 10 on would take again. The only thing that holds it back is that there's no like connection to animation or anything like that. It wasn't exactly worth my time to go through, but I did enjoy going through it. I would say out of all of the filler classes, it's one of, if not the best, filler class. Moving on to number 16 with a class value of 28 is Technical Animations, my month 24. Now with the name Technical Animation, I was like, felt like we were gonna get fancy, but I didn't exactly know what we were gonna do. When I got into the class and I found out it's not as much animation as it is mocap data and almost rigging in a sense, I was like, it kind of knocked it back for me. Cool to learn in cloth, in hair, actually work with mocap data. This was my first and, as of graduating, only experience with mocap, so it was still cool to go through. Moving on to 15 with a class value of 31 is month 15 for me, character rigging. You might be thinking, wait, character rigging had the same kind of podcast follow me style as compositing and scene finishing and Compositing Fundamentals. True, but they got ranked low, and character rigging is the 15th best class out of my 29. So what's really going on? I feel like character rigging was not only taught better, but it had a better project, because even though all of our rigged bunny characters were supposed to be the same, you actually had to do the work. They just kind of showed you a little bit what to do, and then you had to spend, an hour or so working rather than just straight up following someone throughout the entire process. It was a bit more independent, and character rigging is something that I just want to learn how to do. So, there's that. And lastly, to wrap up our, pretty good classes, ranked at 14 with a class value of 32, is month 11 for me, shading and lighting. Now, shading and lighting is friggin' difficult. It is a heavy friggin' class. Granted, you don't really model anything, but you get to texture everything, you get to add the lights, and you render out things that look so real, and they show you how to do it. And I believe this was our first time learning how to render, and one of my first times seeing a rendered image, and I was like, wow, this is gonna be friggin' cool. And I was only in month 11 out of 26. I said, oh man, we got some good stuff coming up. Not only was it a good class experience, but it got me excited for what was to come in the program, and it is most certainly worth my time to learn. It was just an overall very enjoyable class. So I graded it a 32 out of 40. Okay, so now you can see our final two categories. These are some really friggin' good classes. I highly enjoyed all of them. So, it was hard to even break them up into 39s and 40s. And then I had to be like, okay, I gotta rank them, and then I gotta arrange these top 6 perfect 40s. So, both of these categories were difficult to rank. I highly enjoyed all 13 of these classes, and I would imagine you would too. Alrighty, coming in at number 13, we have month 3, 3D Foundations. Wow, okay, so this class, looking back, is so simple. In the moment, this was my very first experience with 3D anything. For the first time, heard what Maya even was. I had never heard of it, and I got to model basic things. Granted, back then I spent like a whole day modeling my Lego guy, but now I could do that in just a few minutes. So it's crazy to think how much progress I've made since this class, and this class was the foundation of all of that. Of all of everything I've made, pretty much. 12 is month 8 for me, 3D Animations 1. Much like how 3D Foundations was like the foundation for everything I've done, 3D Animations 1 is the foundation for all of my animations. Of course, it's gonna be ranked really high. I am in the animation discipline. It's friggin' awesome. I love animation, so this was an insanely anticipated class for me, and it certainly paid off, and I was very happy with it. Moving on to number 11, 3D Animations 2. Much like 3D Animations 1, it's just more experience, and I enjoyed the animations that I made in this class more than 3D 1, so that's why it is ranked where it is. Alrighty, breaking into the top 10. Month 10 comes in at number 10, Project and Portfolio 2. So you see how 3D A1 was month 8, and then we went to month 9, and now we're in month 10. It just keeps getting better, which is awesome, and these are 3 back-to-back-to-back animation classes, and again, like I said, it got better and better every time. We learned how to set up lights for the animation, so it just kept getting cooler and cooler. So it keeps getting better and better on the ranking. Alrighty, coming in at number 9, we have month 13 for me, Project and Portfolio 3. The further on into the program you go, the cooler it gets. It was my first time with like a kind of slow animation. I know that they change the reference every month. I got the guy that pushes the box. Was told to use the beefy muscle rig guy, and I'm really happy with the animation I produced. Moving on to number 8. We have month 14.1 for me, Character Modeling Fundamentals. This was a very highly anticipated class for me. I always have wanted to model my own characters. I write stories, I come up with characters, I draw characters. One of the reasons I wanted to go to Feazel to begin with was so that I can model, rig, texture, and animate my own characters and stories. So going into this class, I was like, I really am excited for this one. And it certainly paid off. I was really happy with the model that I made. It's only opened up doors. Made one model in this month, and I've since then made 3 other characters. So I mean, like, we're trucking along and it all started here. Really cool. Alrighty, coming in at number 7, wrapping up the 39s, is month 17, Project and Portfolio 4. Project and Portfolio 4 is when I made my trash can lid toss animation. What a mouthful, right? The one thing that holds us back from being a 40 is that I don't feel in week 1 it was properly explained what to do, where to turn things in, because I believe this was our first time with Sync Sketch and our first time turning things in on the Portfolio 4, 5, 6, and 7 separate discipline link page, and you don't have lectures or people telling you where to turn things in, so I feel like it was very overwhelming in the first week, should be the correct word there. That's the only thing holding it back. Otherwise, it's of course more animation. I friggin' loved it, so I mean, I'm really happy with what I animated in this class. Alrighty, we're gonna move into our top 6. I could not find a flaw with any of these classes. I gave them all 40s, so I mean, like, if you've got one of these coming up or you're in one of them, a good chance that you're gonna like it. Alrighty, so number 6 is character animation. Character animation was really cool. It was our first time using a rig that isn't all broken up or anything. Like, we used the T100 or the T200. In the character animation class, you use the bunny or the ant or something like that. And these models look like actually kind of, maybe not Pixar level models, but they're better models. And they're some of the better ones that we got to use. So, I mean, like, that was just really cool to have that experience working with a model like that. I also learned how to do a walk sequence in this class, which was cool. We did dialogue in this class, which was cool. So, I mean, very little to complain about, if anything, in this class. Bringing us into the top 5 of my classes at Feazel. It's crazy, but let's do it. What is number 5? Number 5 is month 23 for me, production modeling. Now, out of all of these classes, a large handful are animation classes. I'm in the animation discipline. So how is a modeling class in my top 5? Well, that's because it's a character modeling class. This is my 3rd character that I have modeled at this time, and oh my goodness, it was such an incredible learning experience in this class. Like, I learned the basics in character modeling fundamentals, but in this class, the professor taught so many cool, like, skills and tips and tricks and things you can do to better improve your model. We got to do surface detail, which was cool. You got to pick the character that you wanted to model. My only problem with this class is, and I'm not even gonna dock it for it, is that you can't model your own characters. And I get that. Hardly ever are you gonna work on your actual own stuff in the industry. That's all just gonna be personal projects for the most part. So I really enjoyed this class. Alrighty, coming in 4th place is Project and Portfolio 5. Now, by this time in the program, we have already been through Portfolio 4, and we kind of understand how this whole portfolio class thing is supposed to work. I mean, it's the exact same setup, but we're not as overwhelmed because we've been through before at this point. And then from there, it's a pantomime acting kind of animation scene. I really liked the month-long animation projects just because, like, I had a very nice structure going into it. Week 1, you block it out. Week 2, you do a little bit more. Week 3, you make it perfect, and then week 4, you get to chill. So I always plan out my timing and plan out my weeks. I was like, just don't mess with me during week 3 and we'll all be fine. And the pantomime acting was a bit of a challenge, but like I said, I'm happy enough with the animation I produced in this class, and it only got better. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Breaking us through to the top 3, what do we have in 3rd place? We have month 22.1, for me anyway, animation production. Animation production was really cool. It's not like your typical animation class that I just talked about where I was like, I know what my weeks are gonna look like. You got to go through all the steps of pre-production for an actual animation, just on a very small scale. So animation production was almost like my real first experience with industry production and stuff like that. Not to mention, we got to use the Mary rig. Like, that was the only rig that we had available to us. It's just incredible, and this was a really fun class. Bringing us to the runner-up for Full Sail is Project and Portfolio 6. Again, I mean, it's just another animation scene with another dialogue. By this point, I felt so friggin' confident in making an animation that I was like, we got this. Bring it on, Froggy. And I think that's why I have a lot of my later classes in this perfect section of 40. It's not necessarily because the classes did anything different. It's still just, here's a character, here's a scene, here's a file, animate it. What changed was me. Going through this program does change you, and you get more confident. And it's awesome to see how that affects you in your classes, thus giving you like better, more fond memory of that class, a better experience in that class. So that's why my later classes are my perfect experience classes. Like I said, because they do anything different, but because my previous classes, though I may have not liked them as much, have made me more confident and made me ready for these classes. But Project and Portfolio 6 was really cool. I mean, again, it's just another animation, but I really liked animating it, so that's why it's here. But coming in at number 1, guys, you could probably figure it out, is month 26, my last month in the program, Project and Portfolio 7. Now, it's crazy to think that the best class was the last one, because like, how often does that really happen? It truly was the best class. It's like a finale, you know, take a TV show, for example. They bring back all of your favorite characters from past seasons, and they mash everything together for one amazing, fun finale. And that's pretty much what this was. You bring back all of your past animations, ones that you think you may have wiped your hands clean with, and they're like, okay, let's make these really cool. So let's render them out, let's add color, let's tweak some animations, make them cool, make the story make sense. Overall, it's just an incredible class that really does teach you so much. It's really friggin' fun. I know in my experience video I was like 325 hours between work and rendering, and yeah, it's a very time-consuming class, but by golly, you get to bring back everything. You get to look at your work and say, I made all of it. This is my demo reel. This is my resume. This is me. I am an animator. That feeling of success, that feeling of accomplishment and saying I made all of this, is one that you only get in this class. It's the hey look mom feeling that you get in this class that you don't get in another class. And that's pretty much, you know, if you do something really cool, you want to say, hey look ma, I made it, look at that. Panic at the Disco right there for you. But that's the, like I said, that's the feeling you get in this class, and you just don't get that in another one. So it's really cool to see it all come together. And that's why Project and Portfolio 7 was, in my opinion, the best class out of all 29 I took at Full Sail University in the computer animation degree program. Now granted guys, this is just my list. If you guys have a different list, a different ranking, let me know down in the comments below. I am so willing to hear your guys' experience in classes that I may not have had a good experience in. Maybe you had a really good one in. Of course, there's no right list. This is just mine, this is my experience, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. So let me hear your experience down below and your ranking. And that's pretty much it for this one, guys. So if you would please like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys on my next video. See you guys later.